On the phone, we have one of the newest members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, a gentleman I remember playing for the Buffalo Bills back in their heyday in the early 90s, Andre Reed. How you doing, Andre?
Doing good, man. I'm here out here in sunny Southern California. I know the weather's been a little crazy this year, this winter there on the East Coast with all this cold weather snaps and polar vortexes and all that, but you don't have to worry about here in California.
Yeah, I noticed on Facebook, Tom Dreesen posted a photo from the from the Frank Sinatra Celebrity Invitational.
Yeah, that was just this past weekend. I've been involved with that for the last 2-3 years, and there's some, just some great people out there, man. The weather was great, and just a great tournament. Barbara Sinatra, I mean, that's, come on, that's like, icon right there, and she does children's center and out there having fun, and the charity is benefiting from all of it, and it's a pretty good couple days out there in the desert.
I see you went to Kutztown for college. Where is Kutztown?
Kutztown State College back in the day. Yeah, it's dude, you got to get up on Google and find out where stuff is. Come on, man. That's why I had to have the internet.
It's in Pennsylvania.
It's in eastern Pennsylvania. It's about an hour. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of Philly, and yeah, small school, Division II, pretty good. I mean, people talk about D2 schools, man. D2 schools are, if you look at a lot of NFL rosters now, there's a lot of D2 kids on NFL rosters. And, back in the day, it wasn't like that because it was really obscure for, really good players. I mean, they're good players, but you just didn't see them on NFL rosters. And I think if you look at some rosters now, a lot of them, they're made up of, those D2 guys, some Pro Bowlers. So,
how'd you not end up at Penn State or Pitt?
Well, at the time, I just was a young kid coming out of high school, and I just wasn't. I wouldn't say I wasn't ready for it. I just, thought I'd go to school locally. Had a pretty good program, good academic school. I was a homebody, and
okay.
I look back on it now, and it probably was the best thing for me. So, I could have went to a bigger school and tried to walk on or tried to, play, and you never know what could have happened.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How far from Allentown is it?
It's about 40 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you got drafted by the Bills, were you expecting to go in the 4th round, or did you think you were going to go higher?
No, I was projected rounds 3 through 6 at the time, and I know people, NFL people I know and have watched the draft over the years. Back then it was 12 rounds instead of 7 they have now. So, I mean, on the first day of training camp, there was 125 guys on the practice field, and I think now you can only have 90 players that are on. So that's 35, 40 more players. 35 more players that you can have on the field, which then diminishes your chances of making the team. So, but, times change, things change, and that's how it is.
Now, the team you joined wasn't exactly the best one in the NFL at the time. As a former high school quarterback, did you say to yourself, hey, I could do better than Vince Ferragamo or Bruce Matheson?
No. I think, I got some great advice just from, people, and one thing led to another. And when I got to Kutztown, they had a pretty good quarterback there that was a little All-American at the time. He was a senior, and as a freshman, and then they had a guy behind him that was a junior. And, I was coming in as a freshman, and, who knows if I was going to get any playing time or not. And they said, hey, would you, they saw me in high school, and I could, handle the ball and do all that stuff. They wanted to see if I can catch. And I was like, yeah, anything to help the team. If I can, get on the field and play, I would, love to contribute in any way I can. And it was in the mind of Gino Calcagni, who was the offensive coordinator at the time. He asked me if I'd make a switch to wide receiver, and I said for sure. And obviously it was the best switch I ever made.
You had a pretty good mind on offense, and Jim Ringo too.
Well, yeah, Jim was, when he was in Buffalo, he was the offensive line coach. He wasn't the coordinator. He was the offensive line coach. So, yeah.
Okay. Yep. So your first season in, you come in, Kay Stevenson's the coach. Four games into the season, you're 0-4, and all of a sudden, Kay Stevenson's not the coach. Hank Bullow's the coach. You say to yourself, what's going on here?
Right. Oh, is that what I say? What's going on? No, I didn't say what's going on. I think, back then, man, it was, the Bills were in transition. And they just had back-to-back 2-14 seasons. They haven't been in the playoffs since the 81 season. And, there was a change being made. And I think, bringing Marv in that fourth game of the year, that was the change that the team needed.
And you did pretty well with the USFL guys that came over besides Marv, with Jim Kelly and Scott Norwood and also Bruce Smith.
Man, you guys are going back, man. You're going way back. I think if people go on the internet, they can find all that out.
What was Marv Levy like as a coach?
Well, Marv was just a good guy, man. I think he was more than a coach. I mean, he was kind of like a father figure, and he really had a great rapport with his players, and that was the good thing about it.
When Jim Kelly came in, could you tell that there was a significant upgrade at quarterback?
Oh yeah, Jim was he had a great career there for Gamblers, and he just was a very feisty guy. He was really, from day one when he was in the huddle, he demanded respect, and you knew that he wanted to get stuff done. He sometimes you look at some quarterbacks and they look like their eyes are like a deer in the headlights, and Jim was just a confident guy in his ability, and when you need that at the guy that's pulling the trigger, and we believed in that, and we got a bunch of players around him, and Thurman, and Bruce Smith was there, came in my year. You had Darryl Talley on the defense. You just had a lot of good players at the right times.
And you had a pretty good counterpart in James Lofton as a wide receiver.
Oh yeah. Yep. Hall of Famer too, yeah.
I think the key for that Buffalo team is when you went to that no-huddle offense, because it let Kelly shine.
Well, we all shined. I don't think it was just Jim. I think, they saw what he did in the USFL and how he, threw for all those yards and had all those weapons, and that was the Ted Marchibroda started that. And he was very instrumental in, because one game, we were losing, and we just started going, hurry up, and we ended up scoring and almost won the game. We came back the next week, and he was like, why don't we do this all the time? And put people on their heels all the time, and that's when all that started. And then, then we started running teams out of the stadium because they couldn't keep up with the pace.
The defense must have hated that, though, because you had to be on the field a lot longer.
All right, what's that?
The defense had to hate that because if it was 3 and out, they were right back on the field real quick.
Oh yeah. And sometimes they did hate it. They're like, man, you guys are scoring too quick, man. We just rested. For 5 minutes, we're back on the field. I go, well, our job is to score. Your job is to stop them from scoring.
When a lot of people think of Andre Reed, they think of the yards you accumulated after the catch. What was the key to your success in that regard?
Well, there's a bunch of keys to that. I think, as a high school quarterback, we ran a option type of offense where I was able to handle the ball a lot and run with the ball. And I think, when the Bills saw that, and when I went to college, and they saw that, they wanted me to, they wanted to try to get the ball in my hands as quick as possible. And that's when that all started. And then when I got to Buffalo, they even gave me more chances to do that. So I just really worked on, being strong and breaking tackles and all that kind of stuff. It was really important to me, the way I trained in the off season to get ready for that. And our offense changed, when Ted Marchibroda came and I had to be in the middle a lot and take a lot of hits. So I had to be physically fit to do all that stuff. And, again, I had some great teammates, great people behind me that made me better, and vice versa. So, and you know what? They gave me the opportunity too. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, you know, having the opportunity to do everything. And, you know, again, just really taking pride in what I like to do and never being satisfied. So that was a big key, definitely.
That game against the Oilers in the playoffs, the comeback game, did you think that you had any shot at coming back?
What's that again?
Did you think you had any shot at coming back in that game
in
the playoffs?
Oh yeah, I think we had to get something going because we had a great crowd. You know, our 12th man was probably one of the best, if not the best, in the game. And we figured if we get a little bit going and the crowd got into it, you know, we'd start to make something happen. And plus, you know, they were making some mistakes. And that's what they say. Well, we let them off the hook. We did this. We made this mistake. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake. It's how you capitalize on it, on the other person's mistake. You still have to capitalize on it. So we did. We capitalized on every mistake they made, and we turned it into points. And, you know, they got a little complacent, and that's what happens. You end up losing the game.
When you retired with 950 receptions, that was third all time. Since then, other guys have passed you by. Is there been sort of an inflation in receptions with the offenses the way they are nowadays?
Well, you guys watch the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say that?
I would.
Exactly. It's more of a passing league now. I mean, the guys are going to get their yards, but you know, the pass really sets up the run now. The run doesn't set up the pass.
And the cornerbacks
that's just the way the trend of the league is.
And the cornerbacks can't hold you as much as they used to.
Well, there's a lot of rule changes that really benefit the offense, especially receivers. And I didn't have those rules back then.
Who gave you the hardest time at cornerback?
I can't say one guy or another. All of them were tough. You wouldn't be there. You wouldn't be there playing that position if you weren't a pretty good player.
Now, after 15 seasons in Buffalo, you had one more season where it started off in Denver and ended up in Washington. Would you have preferred to have had your entire career at Buffalo?
Well, I consider I did, regardless. Just because I was 1 year somewhere. The bulk of my career and what I did was in Buffalo, and I always will be a Bill and remember that. I'm sure if you ask some of these other Hall of Famers, you know, Joe Montana played the bulk of his career in San Francisco, and he ended up, in Kansas City, but he's probably a 49er for life. So I'm no different.
When you made those 4 Super Bowls in a row, did you think to yourself, you know, we got to win one of these things?
You guys are funny, man. Is this your first time on the radio, you guys? I don't know.
No, we've interviewed 106 Hall of Famers.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a funny question. You ask it like that. I mean, unfortunately, we didn't. That's the way I look at it. You know, we can't, stop that now. But of course, that's what you play the game for. You play the game to get to the Super Bowl and win it. You know, some guys haven't even gotten to a Super Bowl or to a playoff game. So that's really what your goal should be when you step on the field in July, is you want to be playing in that last game, at the Super Bowl site in February.
Did you have a favorite of those 4 Super Bowls?
Well, I'm not saying they're favorites because we didn't win. I mean, I was blessed to be on that stage, it's 4 years in a row. I don't think that's ever going to happen again. And, the outcome didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, but if you look at those teams, we have 5 Hall of Famers from those teams. So obviously they think that the team was not only individually what we did, but they think the team was very, very instrumental in changing the game, at that time. And, we were a pretty pretty hard to contend with at the time. Regardless, you had to go through Buffalo most of the time during those years. So, yep.
When you when you found out you were going to the Hall of Fame, how did you feel?
I felt like a little bit. I mean, I can't even. Just the emotion and was very, very. It was a long wait, put it that way. And I was pretty. I told people I'm very humbled by the accolade. I was only as good as the people around me, and I respected the process of the Hall of Fame and how they pick people. I mean, it's so hard to pick 5 guys out of what they start with 125 guys. It's hard to pick 5 and say, okay, these 5 are better than these 120. I think if you're nominated, you're just as deserving as anybody else. And I'm glad to be with my teammates and to be part of the greatest team ever assembled, and that's the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I mean, if you would have asked me in high school would I be a Hall of Famer in the NFL, I would have probably laughed at you a few times. But this is what God made, and God gave me the ability, and I tried to work it, and I think I worked it pretty good for him. And now it's time to be an ambassador for the Hall of Fame and be an ambassador for kids and say, hey, you could do it. There's no limit to your ability if you work hard, and you can achieve the goals you want.
Now, induction weekend can be pretty hectic for the inductees. Will you be able to bring along your golf clubs?
I don't know. I have no idea. I know I talked to John Randall a lot of times, and I might go on a day or two early and get my clubs hit up there one time before all the mayhem starts, because you're pretty busy, you said, for a while, but who knows?
I know Chris Dolman here is kind of pissed off he lost in that NFL challenge to Jerry Rice.
Oh, I didn't even watch it, so.
And who's going to be your presenter? Have you decided yet?
Yeah, Marv Levy's going to be my presenter. He's done a few, and I thought about Bill Polian, who is a great speaker and heck of a GM, who I think should be in the Hall of Fame someday. And Jim was my other guy, Kelly, and I think Marv. It's not that he beat those 2 guys out, but I think Marv is such an eloquent guy and really knows me as a player and what I'm made up of. And how I went about things. I think he's going to do a fabulous job for me, and I'm honored to have him not only as a former coach of mine, but he's a Hall of Famer too. So he knows what that's about.
Just make sure Marv doesn't start reading his poetry he's writing.
Oh yeah, he'll do that anyway.